Let's remember back to 1972 when Richard Nixon and Henry Kissinger went to China. What happened? That was the beginning of engagement, in effect. And Mao Zedong said a very interesting thing to Nixon and Kissinger. He said, don't worry about Taiwan. It doesn't matter if it takes 100 years to resolve it. But that kind of tolerance to kick the can down the road ended when Xi Jinping came to power and thought, no, now we're big, we're wealthy, we're powerful, we're stronger, and we want Taiwan. It's ours. And to the United States, basically said, get off our ranch. And that's what has incubated the political problem that lies behind the challenge of what to do about microchips. Well, when the United States sort of relinquished its interest in manufacturing microchips, the fabbing process of making chips migrated elsewhere. And this is where Taiwan took it up, but so did South Korea to some degree, and Japan to a lesser degree. And they did it well. And everybody, and this is the great paradox of the situation, became reliant on Taiwan. So, the Chinese have an expression of sleeping in the same bed but dreaming different dreams. And Taiwan is got China is dependent on it as we are. They have a card to play, which is good. But it's the card that China wants, and it's the card that's 90 miles across the Taiwan Straits, and Xi Jinping would love to get his hands on it. But I think one of the things that we all learned in working on our project is that the fabs in Taiwan are part of a much larger international ecosystem. If Taiwan gets grabbed by China and the PLA marches into TSMC, they're not going to get backup from ASML in Holland. They're not going to get the computer upgrades. The engineers will probably, half of them will flee. They won't get the gases and the solvents they need from Japan. So I'm not so sure they're going to get much. So how do we deal with Xi Jinping? This is the question of questions. I think we have to have a very calculated and realistic assessment of our national security interests. And as we've discussed, protect our supply chains and become self-sufficient where we need to be. On the other hand, I think we at all times need to keep the diplomatic door open. We need to try to find recourse to other solutions than conflict. But keeping the door open does not mean that we should deceive ourselves into thinking that there isn't a potential real threat here, that we also have to simultaneously prepare for. I think Xi Jinping is deterrable in a curious way. Here, the Ukraine may really provide some help for Taiwan. Because what Xi Jinping is witnessing, as is the world, is the utter catastrophic consequences of an overweening, arrogant, hubris-filled dictator invading a piece of territory they think is theirs. And, what a mess. So the best deterrent actually may be, sadly, the story of the Ukraine. But there are other forms that I think we can also add to that. And I think that some of them are military, some of them are technological, some of them are diplomatic. And I think now countries around it are becoming more open to relating to it in a more fulsome way than they were in the past, when they were always afraid of angering China. Because China basically now is a punitive society that seeks to punish people such as South Korea, Philippines, you name it, Japan, that it thinks is refusing to do its bidding. That's something that has to be factored into the equation. That's part of the threat. That's part of the risk. I hope the Taiwanese people can view this report and American posture now as, congratulations for a job well done, both in microchips and transforming your island into a democratic society. The United States will be there to help you in both of these realms. I hope that's what they take away.